Well, the main planks for the fireplace mantle have been milled and glued together, and the next step was to actually go over to the new house after the fireplace stone had been set and take some exact measurements. Now, the next series of photographs are going to show you the fireplace in its current state. When you see those photographs, I want to point out a couple things. You'll see some 2x10 material sticking out from the face of the stone. Those are the two braces that are going to actually hold the mantle. The mantle will actually fit with the top plank above the top of the 2x10 and the bottom plank below just fit on there and rest in place. You'll also see a homemade caliper that I made to get the very exact measurement of the width of the fireplace and to make sure there was no deviation from a 90-degree angle at the ends. So take a look and we'll be right back. Okay, now that you've had a chance to see those photographs and see those supporting beams that I talked about that will hold the mantle up and the caliper that will measure the width of the fireplace and any angle or angular difference from 90 degrees on the ends, the next step is to make these walnut vertical supports that go between the top and the bottom planks in the mantle. Now, those walnut vertical pieces are 3 inches thick and a total of 16 inches long. You'll see actually 10 inches of that, but then there's another 3 inches on the top and 3 inches on the bottom that are going to be made into tenons that go through mortises cut through the planks so that we'll be able to hold the planks together with those mortise and tenon joints. Now, what I've got here is a nice piece of quarter sawn walnut. Quarter sawn meaning that the annual rings are nice and straight on this face. Very stable piece, and we're going to go ahead and cut this up into lengths and then mill it down nice and smooth and essentially make this into a 1-inch thick plank and then glue 3 pieces together to get our 3 inches of thickness. Got my 2 planks cut to about 50 inches long and 10 1/4 inches wide. Later on I'll cut these into a little over 16-inch pieces, glue 3 of them together, and that will be one of my upright connectors between the top plank and the bottom plank of the mantle. Before I glue the pieces together, I want to get rid of any planer or joiner marks, just little ribbons of material that stick a little proud above the surface, and that way I get a better glue joint. To do that, I'm going to use a card scraper. A card scraper is simply, in my case, a rectangular piece of steel where the edge has been ground nice and smooth on a lapping stone, and then it's been rolled over. The edge has been rolled over using a burnisher, which is just a piece of steel, in this case triangular. Sometimes they're round or oval shaped. And you just roll over the edge, make a little bit of a burr, and then the tool simply is held between the fingers and the thumb. Put a little bit of bend on it. And it just makes a nice shaving. Nice thing about a card scraper is it almost never tears out grain. And it's often used just for this final smoothing like I'm doing here. The pieces of lumber are now cut to size. I've matched the grains as best I could for a pleasing look, and you can see I've got 2 bundles of 3, which I'm now going to glue together to make 2 3-inch thick boards. I'm going to be using Unibond 800 with a very dark color catalyst to match the walnut. I'm using Unibond because it doesn't creep. I want these pieces of wood to stay in their same orientation forever and not develop any kind of a little ripple along here where the joints are. Unibond 800 is nice and stiff. It'll keep these in perfect alignment forever. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I've got these boards matched up. So what I'll do here is spread some glue on the surfaces. I've already mixed up the glue. I'm using my Hyde 19120 notched trowel. And right now I'm just experimenting with the amount of glue to use. I think I probably put too much on this piece. That's fine. I can just, any extra I can just put over to the other piece. Okay, now they're in place. You can see that I put this on a couple of pieces of 2-mite material on which I put some clear packing tape. I'm just going to let that sit for a minute and start to clamp it. This will take a lot of clamps because we want to get a lot of pressure on here to get the best joint we can. But at this point the glue is a little bit slippery, and so this wood kind of slides around a little bit. Well, the glue up is done and the pieces are all clamped up with as many clamps as I can fit. And I have to confess, I used too much glue. I mixed up 400 grams. I probably should have mixed up 200 grams. And live and learn. You're always learning in this business. One last step and we're done for the night. It's November here in Virginia and it does get kind of cool. Unibond 800 needs to have a temperature of at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit in order to cure properly. I know that that's a fact. Don't ask me how. I've got an electric blanket here that I put over my clamp up, and I'm going to go ahead and just leave this turned on through the night. As the temperature drops in the shop, this nice little tent will stay warm and the Unibond will cure. Now on to a more serious note. I've had friends who ask me why I make these videos and why I spent so much time writing how I would make pieces of furniture back before I knew how to make videos. I never had a really good answer, but I do today. I received an email this morning from a technical sergeant in the Air Force. He's in Afghanistan on his second tour. He's already done 3 tours in Iraq. He said he spends hours reading through my website, learning all he can from how I make things, and he finished up his email by saying, "I know you don't know this, but you're a mentor." That's why I make these videos, to try to be able to share with other woodworkers how I do business, and maybe other people can learn from what I do here in the shop. Well, my glue-ups had a nice warm night with the electric blanket, and the glue-up was successful. I've taken the pieces and cleaned them up using various tools, so I have a nice exact 3 inches thick, nice square faces, and the right length, 16 1/8, give me a little extra for when I make the tenons. And now we're ready to move on to the next step.